right, we're live.
We live, live in America, baby. Rock and roll. It is live on the not the What's Happening Hope, the Roundtable Talk podcast. Rayford, North Carolina. All the information you need to know right here, and the best we can do to bring it to you. Hal Nunn,
Ruben Castellon,
And Chris Holland.
inside the studios of Christian1057.com. Producer man hit the button and said go, so we got to roll. And that's what we're doing. So we welcome you all to the Roundtable Talk podcast inside the studios of Christian1057.com. More about them in a minute. But first, we got to thank our sponsors, and we want to thank our inaugural sponsor. And boy, do they got some tales to tell. Rayford Guns, they are, we're glad to have them on and continuing as our inaugural sponsor. And we hope you check them out at 5609 Fayetteville Road inside the gas station at Skull Road and Johnson Mill in Hope County, Monday through Friday, 10 to 7. Normally it shows on the weekend. See their Facebook page, and they've got two now, Rayford Guns and Rayford Guns 2.
the number two.
Yeah, the number 2. You can check them out right now on Facebook, and they are allowed to be there thanks to the meta universe. But
For now.
for now, until they do something that they don't like, which can happen any moment. But also, we want you to stop by there. We want you to give them a call, 910-709-3950. That's Rayford Guns 2 on Facebook. You also can get them by putting in Rayford Guns on X. And I'm not sure if he's worked on the Instagram page or not, so we got that going on. And we'd also like to thank the Hope County edition of the North State Journal to the Roundtable Talk podcast continuing on right here in the studio. I have my copy of the latest Hope County edition of the North State Journal, and what a coverage they did on Memorial Day week and weekend and all that good stuff there. So check them out. Hope County edition of the North State Journal is the only statewide newspaper covering local, state, national, and world news, as well as college and pro sports. Subscribe today by calling 919. Make sure I'm right. Where's that number? I think I have the good number. 919-663-3232, or you can go to hoke.northstatejournal.com. Also, our buddy here, Christian1057.com, WCLN, your source for hope and inspiration, streaming, app, web, online, was what faith sounds like. Christian1057.com, our Facebook page, Roundtable Talk Podcast, or listen anywhere podcasts are found. Search for the Roundtable Talk Podcast, Hope County, Rayford, North Carolina, and you will find us here.
And don't forget how the YouTube channel Roundtable Talk Podcast, because after 30 days the live feeds go away.
Gone, man.
But they're there on YouTube.
Did we ever put that link on the page or on the website? I think it's on the website, but it's not on the Facebook page. They might delete it anyway. But anyway, I had to come in today. You know, we've been a little bit on vacation, had our little family break that we took, and I'm really, it was very pleasant. It was very pleasant. I held that little baby on the beach, rocking in the chair, sunshine shining, little baby cooing and talking, and man, that's hard to walk away from, brother.
Hunter Biden spent the weekend on the beach, too, and his daughter.
Did he?
Yeah, made a comment about how everybody's beating up on her dad, and he's such an honorable patriot, and yada, yada, yada.
A patriot?
Yeah.
Well, just because of him, I wore my Pride hat today.
There you go.
I mean, I am all in, brother, for Pride Month.
That's right.
And it's going to run through June, July, August, September, October, November, December, all the way till 2026.
There you go.
And my headphones don't stay on very well, but I'm going to try to keep it there.
Did you see the announcement from the Department of Education about their Pride Month observation? They're actually recognizing Title IX Appreciation Month.
That's fantastic.
Instead of Pride.
I need a Title IX banner.
There you go.
Well, those are the people that actually have common sense and live in reality, in the real world. In the real world, there's only two genders, female and male. I mean, you can pretend to be, just like if a man puts a clown suit, you can pretend to be a clown. But are you really a clown all day long?
Some of them are, man. Some of them are.
So it's funny not to change the topic, but when I see individuals, and here's the whole thing. This is the thing that's so interesting. Okay, females that claim to be males, I'm just going to call it for what it is, the butchy kind. They claim to be the male. They play the male role in the relationship with a female. You don't see them jumping in the wagon to play against men in men's sports, but you have these weak, pathetic, delusional males that can't even make it in the man's world, so they want to go out there and invade women that work so hard to compete against other women, only for a delusional group that supports these delusional men, boys, to take away these scholarships, trophies, whatever, from women. That I'm surprised that a lot more people not standing up. And I notice a trend: the people that don't stand up for women's sports. Again, this is my opinion. If the truth,
one-sided.
The truth always hurts. Lies will make you happy, but here's the truth. If you ever notice the people that are for men competing in women's sports, they are, I'm just going to call it for what it is. This is what I see. Fat, extremely obese,
non-athletic,
ugly.
Non-athletic.
Just they're beyond ugly. They're yuggly. Okay?
Yuggly, new word. Coined.
Yuggly. And just in politically Marxist socialists, those are the people that are for these delusional young boys or men that really they're pretend. I call that the new clowns. The new clowns. They're the new clowns.
So it just happened this past weekend in California. A guy took a title in track and field or something.
AJ or AD Hernandez?
I don't know who the name was, but I know the Department of Education came out and said that they're looking very hard at suspending all the funding for California.
And they
schools
need to.
Because, it's federal law now.
Well,
Did we ever talk about episode 133?
no, we didn't.
We are in episode 133.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're on episode 133, and we are live on Facebook, and we'll be put over to YouTube.
What happens when we run late?
This is a podcast where anything can happen.
That's right.
Literally.
Nothing is pre-planned.
No, definitely not, because the way we flew in this parking lot, it was like crazy. But anyway, back to our wonderful Pride Month coming up. I was on vacation, and I really kind of stayed away from the internet and emails and all that stuff, although I had a few things I had to accomplish with the events that I've been dealing with. And I started seeing things pop up saying, this business and that business was we include everyone. And truly, I don't think there's any other country in the world that includes more people than America. I mean,
even confused people. We include even confused people.
We even allow people to come in here who think they can run the place, and they're not even they're illegal. And then you have those that come into the country and lie about why they're here, and then they overstay their visas. You know what I'm talking about?
To terrorize Americans.
So we let just about anybody in those last 4 years under the previous administration, they let everybody in.
I was reading an article, just to emphasize, to reinforce what you were just saying, Hal. I was reading an article that we have probably somewhere between 75 and 100 million illegals. Not undocumented, because I find that very confusing. Undocumented to me means that if somehow you're using somebody else's driver's license, as an example, or force or something.
ID.
But these are illegals. They're not allowed to be here legally. But think about it. How many was it? 13, 16 terrorists that brought down America during 9/11 for a period of time. And now they say that they estimate probably at least of those a million are probably sleeper cells terrorists. They're just waiting, potentially coordinated attack or just a lone wolves. It doesn't matter. But if you had somewhere between 10 to 16 terrorists that brought down America down and killed almost 3,000 almost instantly, 13. 3,000 Americans. Imagine 1 million terrorists.
So you talk about that. You know, the Ukrainians over the weekend did the surprise attack against Russia.
Yeah.
And they found out that they had smuggled these suicide drones, basically explosive drones, into Russia. And so that correlates with everybody's worried about China buying all this land outside of these military installations and being able to smuggle. And they're really looking hard now at our ports at some of these containers and stuff, because there's like, I think there's like 10,000 containers or something a day goes through Los Angeles port. You know,
those are the ones that they record.
right?
That they have record of.
And you know,
The
because
ones
you
that
know,
go through the process, I guess.
you know, money talks. We know that. We see these in movies, and we know that is true. Depending on how much you're willing to bribe a worker, will determine how much you can
Unload it, put
bring
it on
in.
a truck.
Talking about that, China, Sacramento, California, in my state,
yeah.
they just discovered
Previous state.
yeah. I'm you know, I was born in California, but I chose North Carolina for my
Because
for
of
my
its
final
love and beauty,
destination,
man.
you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, they discovered in a warehouse a Chinese lab.
Right.
They have been putting it together for who knows. But so that is just one location.
Yeah.
You know, if we discover this one location, there's more
How
out
many
there.
more are out there?
There's more out
Well,
there.
didn't the Trump administration just do something to some Chinese students at Stanford, where he's revoked their visas so they can stay, because a lot of them have been, and now Stanford's been a part of the at least partially a part of the Atlantic Coast Conference, the sports side here, because we are now coast to coast. The
Stanford
all-coast
or Harvard?
conference.
Really?
It was Stanford, I believe. But
Harvard is the one that lost the.
Well, they lost funding for just grants and federal funds, but Stanford, you're talking about, and
Visas.
I don't think it was just Stanford. I think there's
Other
several
universities,
colleges,
yeah.
universities. They're identifying these people that are connected to the Chinese Communist Party, not just a Chinese citizen.
Well, they call them. They said
But-
spies.
Yeah, well,
They're
that's
saying
it.
spies.
The Chinese government sends scientists, engineers, and students over here to get into these programs and study what we're doing and exfiltrate that information back to China. So that's one. But back to the illegal aliens and just the uncontrolled border. I was reading an article just today. A guy down in Florida just got arrested. He was a legal immigrant, but they had sent a 16-year-old unaccompanied child that came across the border in 23, sent it. He became a sponsor, took this girl to his house, raped her several times. So now it is a year later, 2 years later, whatever. Finally, she got away, turned him in, and so they're interviewing HHS under
Christy, no, isn't
no, the previous guy, Mayorkas.
Oh, Mayorkas.
So they were talking about, that during this time, 300,000 estimated unaccompanied children came across the border.
And they're
And went on to
unaccounted for.
sponsors. Well, up to 1/3 couldn't be accounted for 30 days later at the 30-day follow-up. So that's 100,000 kids that are just in this country somewhere, hopefully.
Somewhere.
Presumably
They're in a
still
safe-
alive, or
hopefully in a safe environment,
man,
whatever. But we don't know. But and then Mayorkas, when asked about it, this is interviews back or testimony back during the Biden administration. He said, "Well, we're HHS. We have no law enforcement capability. So even if we find out that somebody's in a dangerous situation or somebody's missing, they don't have the kids anymore. All they can do is turn it over to the local police, and then."
Then what's going to
send it
happen?
to the,
well, that
FBI
that's
or whatever.
really
So-
there is truth to that. However, that is not true.
But
They
it's
just
still a
failed.
cop-out.
This failed to do derelict of a duty. I'm surprised he hasn't been criminally charged and arrested. But I think there's something in the works for that. But really, while there are some federal agencies that don't have the backing of the badge and the gun. What's stopping them from making a referral to the FBI?
Well, that's what they were saying. They turned it over to the law enforcement.
Yeah.
But, there again, what is federal policy? States aren't involved with immigration enforcement, yada, yada, yada. So it's just a big mess. And it was a mess, and I think we're trying finally to turn it the other direction.
And it all boils down to only one entity, the President of the United States.
Yeah, because the districts can be definitely manipulated.
Absolutely.
I mean, you get a just like this high school district that last year suspended the kid for saying illegal alien.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
They have to come back and do a public apology to the young
And
man.
they should do more than that.
Oh, well, it should be.
These
But
people,
the parents may.
people
what
violated
they
a
want.
student's First Amendment rights. This is what people don't understand, and I'm not even going to bother. But I'm just going to.
Bother.
This is just
Come on,
general.
man.
This is just general conversation, okay? Well, this is what people don't understand. A public school funded by the state and or by the federal government falls under the banner of the law as it relates to violating a child's rights. When you just like a teacher,
Just like
when
a-
you
just
step
like a
into the
parent's
public
rights.
school area, you don't lose your rights.
No.
You don't lose your rights. Not we're not talking about a child going into the school with the T-shirt and the international hand signal.
Number
Y'all know
one-
what I'm talking
the number
about.
one?
Yeah, the number one. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, we had somebody else too, a child that said that there's only two genders. That the child got suspended. I'm like, but those are facts. And here's the whole thing. You got teachers. I'm not saying whole county. You got teachers, because you see videos where they're indoctrinating your children into believing that there's like 100 some genders. That a human being can be a cat.
Yeah, and they're investigating a Head Start program right now. They've figured out that there's some Head Start programs that are talking about preschoolers, talking about discussing racism, inherent, talking about babies are inherently racist, that they can discern, colors of faces, and
There it
that,
goes.
are discriminatory.
Get
And
my
it's
hat
like,
on.
Really? Babies? That whatever, but that, racism, intersectionality, all the craziness.
Hidden biases.
Yeah, right. A 3-year-old with his hidden bias.
Yeah, he's hidden bias.
Right. But yeah, so they're investigating some of these programs in Head Start, and we're talking in the hundreds of millions of dollars that taxpayers are paying for this stuff to be propagated.
And the sad thing about it is that it boils down to the family nucleus. The parents. When the parents are not involved, I know I can't speak for all parents, but I sure can speak for myself and my wife. We were to this day, very involved with our children's
That's the
educational
key.
journey. Very involved, and we always knew what was going on in the school.
That's the key.
And so when you have parents, and you know who you are, when you have parents that treat the public school system as a daycare center, and you only get involved when
Your
you
kid's
get a
in
letter
trouble.
from the high school saying that your child can't graduate because of ABC, and that at that time when you want to get involved, it's too late.
Way too late.
It's too late.
All right, let's go. Let's hit on some local. Two things I really got to say. The event that they had, because I was gone, I helped push it to the limit, market it, get the information out. Vets for Vets event Saturday in the park before Memorial Day weekend, and the Memorial Day ceremony. From I've only seen bits and pieces. I tried to get somebody to record it, but I've heard nothing but phenomenal. I saw pictures, and it had to be moved inside because of rain in the library.
Right.
But what a bang up job they did on the Vets for Vets thing and the Memorial Day thing, and so big hand clap for all that had it. Dan Nocher, VFW, was kind of been running it, but now in June there comes in a new commander, female, God, I forgot her name. I'm going to remember it in a
Mary,
minute.
is it Mary?
No, it's another lady. I will find it and I'll get it because they meet the second Tuesday, I think. And so they got a new commander. Dan's, he's done a fabulous job over the last 2 or 3 years. I just think they did heck of a job. DAV, the Legion, the VFW, Vets for Vets, John Harry, everybody, they did a really good job. So kudos to that. And but now for the fun stuff. Townsend Road. I did not. Obviously, I was gone. Well, I wasn't gone Monday. I was back Monday, but there's a little
Talking about
bit.
last Monday.
No, this
last night.
last night.
Last night.
There's a little thing going on out thing that they've been talking about.
No, I
Oh.
believe it's condos again or townhomes. There is a distinction, but yeah, it's multiple family units
So this is not affordable housing that you know of.
that I know of. No,
Have you heard anything about it?
they did the affordable housing out on CC Steel Road.
Yeah, and they went up like lightning.
Yeah.
I don't
They
see
went
how
up. They
they're
went up
affordable,
faster than the
though.
fire department at Tylertown.
Or the animal shelter.
Well, the
I
animal
mean,
it's not done.
those
The animal
houses
shelter's not
you're
done.
talking
They're not doing
about, even the one by, well, the new organization, I guess, that the county commissioners are going to have, the
Housing
Development.
Authority
housing authority.
that they're going to be in charge of, right?
Well, they voted for that last night.
Yeah.
So that's
And
done
you got,
deal.
You got these, I don't call them houses. I don't know what they
They're
are.
duplexes.
They're duplexes. They're
Yeah.
one level duplexes.
Right.
Yeah.
All on the road that leads to the main
Dope.
solid waste area.
Yes, on the right hand side.
And they're building them up, and it's just it's gonna be very interesting as to who's gonna really be living there. If
You have to apply for it. It's just like Section 8 government housing. So you would have
Yeah,
to apply
They have a
for it.
lot of rules
There's
and laws
income-
they have to
income
abide
limits
by.
and all kinds of stuff.
However, no disrespect to the school system. Same with the apartments.
They have their own apartments.
They had
right?
their own problems.
Yep.
People overstaying longer, weren't working for the county anymore, and had to leave. It's not no. I mean, I understand. Look, I understand, man. You get it all the time. You don't ever do anything but talk negative about the county. You don't ever do anything talk negative. You never hear anything about the city. First of all, I don't live in the city. So,
Right.
but I do have friends and I do have family, and I do attend some of the meetings and read the information. But you don't see the things that they're doing in the city with the same way you see it in the county when it comes to building and planning and zoning and things like that. You just don't see it.
well,
And I'm trying to be.
No,
I'm trying
no,
to be
no,
fair.
No, I agree with you. When you compare the city Rayford city limits and the county as a whole, you can only build so much in the city limits. The city, the Rayford is Rayford, the city of Rayford. When I first got here the first time, it was not a city; it was the town of Rayford. And then they met that threshold. I think it's like 3,000.
Yeah.
Yes,
3,500, 5,000,
yeah,
so-
and then they converted it into the city of Rayford, but the city of Rayford is pretty much maxed out. You're not going to get a whole bunch of more housings and that in the city limits. Now you're going to continue to see, I suspect, more housing than anything else in Hope County, and
So the city does have the opportunity to annex.
they're not going
parcels.
to do that.
I don't know. Will Wright had applied to have his property that's adjacent right outside the city limits to be annexed. So
So
I
you're
see-
asking
he was asking
to
specifically
have your
to
own
ha-
property
to have
annexed.
to be annexed into the city, but the city under its own authority
Yeah.
can then go. I mean, look at Fayetteville. I
Yeah.
mean, Fayetteville, Cumberland County is 90% Fayetteville, the city of Fayetteville.
Yeah, but they didn't. I don't think residents were asking
They weren't. They were forced.
to be
They were
annexed.
forced.
let,
But my point being that as we grow,
Oh.
and because as a tax base needs to grow, the city will have the opportunity to annex some more of that and to take in some of that area around there.
Rayford,
I foresee it happening.
Rayford is, and I'm not disrespecting those that live in Rayford in the city. I'm not disrespecting the city of Rayford.
Sounds
at
like you
all.
are, man.
But Rayford
Bad guy.
is so small in the bigger picture of whole county. As it relates to the population, what percentage of the city of Rayford has in comparison to the county as a whole? It's really insignificant, and I don't say that to disrespect the city of Rayford.
No.
I travel there. I do business there. I like
There
doing
just
business
about
there 'cause
every day.
I like to keep my money in the county for the most part. But if you think about it, it would take a lot of resources to be able to annex a percentage of Whole County so it can be in the city limits of Rayford. You need a lot of law enforcement. Think about it. Everything that the county provides to the Hocanians will be transferred
the
to
responsibility of the city.
that would
Correct.
be
Rayfordites.
that would be massive, and I just don't think that the city of Rayford has right now the resource. And I don't even think I have not heard. I could be wrong, but I have not heard of the city of Rayford trying to annex.
Expressing an
Well,
interest.
there
I
was.
just don't see it because they don't. Number one, they don't have the. They don't have the. They don't have the resources. They don't have the money to
Well,
be
that's
able.
my
Well, I
point.
think they
is-
have-
and I'm thinking 10, 15 years from now. I'm not saying next week. But,
They
you know,
did
in
a
the
few years
next
back.
decades, Rayford, the city of Rayford, will expand. Just like, Fayetteville. It's the same thing. They started annexing these people because the city itself grew to the point they needed extra resources, extra taxes, so they had to bring in all of these suburban areas to become part of the city
So
limits.
when the county
and-
expands and it runs out of resources, what does it do?
It doesn't do
doesn't.
anything. It can't expand.
I mean,
A county cannot eat another county.
Well, I had heard.
A city, however,
Yeah.
can need
A
different.
portion.
It can
well, they
take
have
chunks
they
of
have
different
annexed
counties.
in the past few years. I remember there was a big stink at the city, and I think it was going out towards West Hoke Middle School area over in there, over
Okay.
that what's that road called on the sort of, I call it the bypass, but
Over there
For
by
one bypass?
Burlington, off of
Burlington.
between Turnpike.
That's the
and
Turnpike
11.
extension.
well, back over there towards West Hoke, and then over there towards Palmer Extension.
Palmer. Yeah.
Extension. But anyway, because there was battles on that as well. But they were fighting the annex. They weren't asking to be annexed.
Yeah, it's just double taxation, right?
That's all it is.
What do you get out of it?
And you get a trash can
on the recycling bin.
because that's what
Your
happened.
leaves get picked up.
That's what happened to those that were fighting the Fayetteville city limits. They got a trash can,
Yeah.
and they got more taxes.
And a lien on their house to hook up to the city water.
Yeah. And so I can tell you what, if in the future, I think that the city of Rayford will benefit if they annexed, because that would be the most direct route for resources to provide support to the residents. And if you can think about the 401 business
Mm-hmm.
to the Walmart area,
That would be your
back
Club
into the
Pond
to the
Road
city.
this way.
And then you know where you got your you go all the way to Doc Brown Road.
Yep.
That whole area could be consumed by the city of Rayford.
Lord,
And then
help.
it will open more land for housing.
Well, I was going to say, I think and I don't remember the term, if it's economic development zone, secondary development zone or something, but there's some buffer areas around
Yeah.
city limits
Yeah.
that Rayford does have a decision in the development
That's right.
of.
That's right.
So,
Well, speaking of the decision, and let's finish up Townsend Road.
okay.
One of the things I was told that was discussed, and our good friend Guy Sagi did a story a couple weeks ago about. I did see that in reference to there's a statute or something or a policy that a town within 5 miles of the border of
So
Fort Bragg has to. Anytime you're doing any changing of zoning and regulations, you are to send a letter to the garrison commander and let them know what's going on.
Right.
What's that all about?
So
Because I didn't
and
fully get it, but now I sort of.
Ironically enough, I was talking to Brian Williams this weekend, and I didn't know it, but they're building a tank range on Fort Bragg,
Whoa!
right? And so
I feel safer
but,
even more so.
and what he said at the time was, or what he told me was, you have to get congressional approval for a military installation to expand to a tank range or an impact area, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's common sense. Look at next door anytime the Marines are in town, right? Oh, where's the booms? My house is shaking apart. This, that. Well, it's the same
picture frames
concept
hanging crooked.
that if you're within 5 miles of the perimeter of the installation, you got to let them know. And they kind of got a little bit of a wait to say, hey, wait a minute, that's like
We're getting ready to
mile
do
and a half.
this.
Yeah, that's a mile and a half from this new tank range. Do you really want to put houses there? That type of
and
stuff.
and Hoke would say yes.
It would not
Howard,
surprise me.
but yes, that was one of the issues brought up last night at that meeting. Was had they properly notified the garrison commander, the decision or the discussion said that they were outside that 5 mile limit. But if you look at Plank Road to Townsend Road in a straight line as the crow flies, I mean, you're talking about a mile and a half.
Maybe
2
three,
miles.
maybe 3 max.
3 at the max.
Well, here's a funny thing about it. Eminent domain, it works.
Ooh.
It doesn't work going up. It always works going down from the top down. So if you, what people don't understand is that those that are familiar with the Fort Bragg area in Polk County, you got Plank Road. It's pretty long
kind
road.
of the southern boundary.
Yeah, it's you got Hobson Road. You got other roads that connect to Plank Road. I'm gonna tell you this right now. Yes, and it would take congressional approval for Fort Bragg to expand. But if Fort Bragg was taking in more units like they did previously, those people, and say they wanted to eat up everything, Hobson Road, if they wanted to do it, nobody's going to stop them.
Oh,
They
no.
could. Well, so interesting enough, I don't know if you saw the article about that, but it was in the News Journal. I don't know, it might have been last year about, I think it was in the 60s, maybe the 50s. Fort Bragg had wanted to take more of Hope County because
Yeah, and one of the guys said, "I'll eat every piece of dirt."
Part of Hope County.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
until,
vast until the Fry
until-
family.
Yeah, until Fort Bragg came through
Yeah.
and incorporated that portion of Hope County.
Yep.
And then they tried to do it again, and a bunch of the residents stood up and went to Raleigh and they fought about it.
Please don't.
But-
Go ahead.
But
I'll
so I
finish
mean,
it.
yes, it does happen. It has happened, and keep messing around, and it could happen again. They're like, look, you guys are encroaching on our training areas,
Yeah.
and the smart thing, and that's all about leadership, right? Sometimes you just got to say no. Hey, look, I understand you have a piece of property and you want to throw some houses on there and get
Oh
rich
no,
or
you want to
whatever
throw
wanna
a
do.
bunch of houses on it.
You want to, but think about the future of those residents, right? Are you disclosing to them that, hey, you know what? Within 3 miles
It's
of,
gonna
of
be
your house is an impact area?
Well, let
I
me.
mean, because that's what's out here on the west side of
Well,
Fort Bragg
look,
is impact
I
areas.
know about
The
impact
funny
areas.
you should
especially
say
with
that,
Apache
Chris.
helicopters.
When I came here the first time in '93, in '96, I bought me a house off of Cliffdale Road on a subdivision called Cliffdale West.
Oh,
I know what you're
yeah,
talking
been in
about.
there.
It was a small little house. It was like about 18 square foot. So, but there was more land.
1,800 square
I had more land than a house.
18.
Okay. And I was relatively new to the area, so I was not quite orientated as to how close Plank Road
was to
me.
Until about midnight one
But I
night.
found out real quick after I moved in when I thought it was an earthquake or a
invasion.
tornado or something, and it was the banging. But by then I had already signed
Yep.
the mortgage. There was nothing I could do about it.
Not
so
a thing you can do.
I personally myself, in a perfect world, I would not allow anybody to build a house anywhere, anywhere 5 miles around Fort Bragg. To me, it's silly because you're gonna get the bang. You're gonna.
Yeah, I lived on Cliffdale over there when it was a 2-lane country road and in a double-wide mobile home back in the private days. But yeah, so those barracks that you see from 295 and 295, all that. I mean, that used to be the ASP area on Fort
It
Bragg.
sure did.
And right on the other side of those barracks is
Ranges.
Plank Road
Plank
Yeah.
Road.
or Chicken Road. Chicken goes straight and then Plank goes.
Yeah.
to the
Which
left,
road
but
just got paved? With Manchester?
On Fort Bragg?
Was
No, Chicken.
Chicken.
Yeah, where it goes through the gate
Oh,
and you go up
they're
to.
not coming in. All right.
No.
All
You're
right.
going on post.
I don't know where else.
Yeah.
I don't know where we were going next. It was somewhere local.
You were talking about the. We were
Towns-
talking about the distance between
yeah.
the new pros. Did they?
Well, we pretty much got it. I just understand that they tabled it.
They
or
tabled
something.
the discussion. And
For now.
something else, and that's something that don't want people to jump up and go, well, I want to talk next time they talk about it. They're not required to.
No,
just
one-
like we talked about in
one
the school
time.
board with the budget.
That's right.
You have one public comment period. And last night was your shot. If you didn't talk about it, then forever hold your peace.
And that's what people are.
Yeah.
Some folks are saying on social media is we got a lot of keyboard warriors. We got a lot of folks chiming off about this, that, and the other, but they're not showing up to the meetings. However, you get the other side that says, well, when you do go and voice your concern, you
get
kind of
kicked
get
out.
kicked out or threatened to be
Shut down.
kicked
You
out.
know, the funny thing about it is that you have to be an informed American. I would say illegal, but you got no rights. You're not speaking because you're illegal, okay? And so here's
They do in some places.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I think New York. I think you can vote if you're
California.
illegal. You know, California definitely. You even get insurance and
license.
everything else with it. But
They're
in
police
Nor-
officers in California.
yeah, but in North Carolina, you know, knowledge is very powerful. When Chris and I were running, before I decided to speak the very first time in the school board on the public comment period, the first thing I did, I said I did my recon. I went and I observed.
Observe what goes down.
Because I was not going to be looking like a fool.
And you
I was not
actually-
going to do that.
From what I remember, you actually tried to go to the leadership and get answers.
Yeah, and so then once I saw the dynamics, then I started reading policy.
Makes you dig more.
And then when I spoke the first time, I knew what I was doing, you know. And the funny thing about it that I see, and I'm not speaking just about the school board
Right.
public comment.
I get it.
I'm speaking about any other commission out there where you go over there and you think that you're gonna do this and do that, only to find out that you can't because school boards, commissions, they are guided by specific laws. By law in the state of North Carolina, we are only required to give you a total, and we determine that, a total of 30 minutes once a month. So any other
3
meeting,
minutes.
any other meeting
that's the
we have,
minimum requirement.
yeah,
rule.
that's
Minimum.
the minimum. Once a month. What does that mean? That means that we have 15 board meetings. We don't have to have a public period. We're only required to do it one time. And the commissioners, they're not bound by our general statute, but they have their own stuff, you know. But the beautiful thing about
Oh, they have to have it the first meeting of the month. I
the
believe.
beautiful thing about what I like about the county commissioners entity is that you can request to be added to the agenda to speak on a topic. The same rule applies for the school board. Of course, it has to be
Relevant.
approved.
Oh,
You
okay.
just can't go out there and
Get on the agenda to talk about. I want to buy. I want to sell T-shirts.
yeah,
to
it
the
has
school
to
board.
be. It has to be relevant, you know. And as an example, I don't follow necessarily the county commissioners, but I know enough about the school board. You know, several days before the monthly meeting comes out, the agenda is posted. You want to talk about it, about something. You know, you have information. You got the consent agenda. You got the
Think about what you
action
wanna say,
items. You know,
right.
I know I didn't know none of that until I got involved, and I know that the action items. That's what the board is going to vote on.
Well,
Yep.
That's what you talked about at the last meeting.
That's right. And normally the way it works is that everything on, let's just say that today we're having a board meeting. Any action item, that means the board is going to vote on it. We've already been briefed the month before.
Right.
You know, but it's being informed so you can go there and I don't, like I said, I don't follow the county commissioners, but if you want to talk to a school board member, we're all accessible. You can email. We're normally very responsive. I normally, if an individual emails all the school board members for a specific question, I wait. I wait a little bit to see if somebody takes the lead. If not, then I take the lead and
Try
so
to
it's
find a
it's
resolution.
being informed. It's being informed.
They should be just pointing it to the right person to handle.
Well, that's
Right.
really that's what
So,
we do.
just for clarification, there's two types of public comment. The first is just general public comments. Get up there and
Sign your name,
give your mind,
3
speak your
minutes.
piece to 3 minutes. Then there are the approvals, the subdivision approvals, stuff like that, ordinance approvals, stuff like that. Those are open to public comment, required to be, so that the public can
in reference to that topic.
to that topic. Exactly, right. So that's the two.
And
types.
how many people spoke? 2? Or I heard it was a couple.
There was a couple. They both spoke, and then one gentleman spoke, so 3. Yeah, I think it was 3. But I mean, it was, and so the couple that spoke, I mean, they covered everything that people normally cover. Traffic density, water pressure, whatever, school crowding, whatever it was. But they came in very prepared. They had it written out, so they could follow in a sequence. Because I know, and everybody, and I speak in the public all the time, but sometimes you get flustered.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you get tongue-tied. Sometimes you forget your train of
course.
thought.
You lose track.
So they did very well. They were prepared. They had their points that they wanted to make and discussion items, and they made a very good presentation. And then I think it was kind of disingenuous. Commissioner Thomas had said, "Oh, well, this is the first time in a long time that we've laid something on the table. Basically put it aside based on a presentation." Well, I think it was actually the question of, are you within 5 miles of Fort Bragg or not? And was that
that was brought up.
Was that proper notification made?
Right.
I think that
Was that brought up?
It was brought up. Yeah, it was asked. The question was asked.
It really sounds to me like the presentation given by this couple was more like help them out. Like, hey, you're about to
Gave 'em a
violate
cover
something
story.
here.
Gave 'em a well, it was two different.
Okay.
So so the couple was presenting. Another gentleman got up and was talking about the water pressure, and then Commissioner Thomas asked Grady at the time.
The
He
lawyer.
said, "Hey, the lawyer. Hey, this was mentioned on Facebook. Look into it."
Oh,
So
but they don't pay attention.
So he went right through it, and then he came back and said, "Hey, yes, there is a requirement within 5 miles, blah 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 blah." And then they looked at Jackie. What's
Look.
her Locklear? Is
Yeah, Jackie Lowry.
Lowry.
But and let me tell you, she knows what she's doing because she's been through so many leaders there. Now, I don't know. I guess she does have the right certifications and things like that. And every time I've ever asked questions or gotten concerns, she has always been able to answer them and get me to the right point
Always
of
very
direction.
helpful.
And so all right, Townsend.
But
we beat
Commissioner
that horse to
Sutherland
death.
wanted to put it on the table, lay it aside, basically because of concerns with the water pressure. That
Not
was the
the
reason.
distance to brag.
No, that's what
It will be very curious to me if a letter shows up. Okay. Anyway, no need to get into the Fayetteville Observer story in reference to the column by their column writer. Oh gosh, I'm forgetting his name.
Pitt.
You're right. We
Pitts.
don't need to get into it.
But I mean, we've already beat the water pressure thing up to death.
Well, I
but
mean, I read that article. I think it was a very balanced article.
it was
know,
opinion.
It
It was opinion piece.
It was an opinion piece, and that's all he does.
Right.
But if you ever read his stuff, I read him every week. He's a very liberal,
Yeah, he's very left-leaning,
Democrat, right?
leaning person.
And like I said, this article I think was fair and balanced. It basically covered the facts and then the opinions of the residents.
And
some
I'm
of
gonna
the
be
issues the residents.
I'm
have
gonna be
been-
honest too. If you sat there, I didn't do it, but if you sat there and made a column and you went pros and cons, the cons would have been very bad. It was a lot. The way I see it is, the problem that we have with the water is caused by the growth.
Right,
Who
Absolutely.
approved the growth?
right.
Who allowed the growth?
But what you're saying about a column?
Oh,
the
pros and
cons.
just reading it to find out if he's leaning one direction or
Yeah,
if
yeah.
he's leaning another, and I thought it was a pretty balanced article.
Yeah. I thought it was.
But he was also quoting things that he read and quoting people that said things.
Right.
And the cons just outweighed the pros. And then, we don't care about social media, but yet you comment about social media all the time. And social media is exactly what it is. It's social media.
Well,
It's
you
a
know,
place-
if you
residents communicating.
Well,
you-
you turn the comments off on public sites, you're going to get that. That's one thing that,
Well,
that
that's against the law anyway.
well, they're doing it.
I know.
I mean, whether you want to fight it or not,
Right.
that's on you.
well, hold on a second. Let me just let me reinforce.
Slow it
a
down,
little bit,
brother.
Okay, first of all, it's not against the law to turn the comments. It's against
Right.
the law to if it's a government page or a public official Facebook page, you can turn off the comment if it gets out of control, and there's nothing wrong with it. But where you get in trouble is that you block somebody, and so now they can't see anything. That's against the law. Or you delete the initial post. That's against the law.
But is not turning off comments blocking everybody?
Yeah, but
No.
they don't even allow comments.
You're still allowing for the post to be viewed, but it's not against the law to turn off the comments. It's just not.
I thought the Supreme Court ruled against
No.
that a couple of years ago.
No.
I would go back and
I
do
know
think
that
you guys need to
Trump and
research.
I'll do some
AOC, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, it made it to the Supreme Court
She's
real
not wearing
quick
this hat.
a few years back, where she blocked some
And
individuals.
Trump, too.
She blocked some, and Trump did too.
Yeah.
But when the Supreme Court put out the precedent, Trump modified because it,
Right.
but you cannot, if it's a public official page or a government page,
Right.
you cannot block.
A commenter.
No, you cannot block people.
Okay.
So in other words, my
No, I
personal.
understand what you
No,
mean.
he's-
You can't
that's what he's
block me
saying.
because
You're saying the same
my
thing.
personal, I got my personal page. I have my public school board page. Okay.
you can't turn your public page private because now you're blocking people.
No, I can't. It's a public page, so therefore, I can turn off the. I make a post. I can turn off the comments. You can still like, get these emoji,
Share, whatever,
all this
right.
stuff. You can forward it to somebody else, and then when you forward it to somebody, you can make comments on that forward, but you cannot make comments on my official
original
page.
post.
Now, you following me? Okay, you following me?
I'm following you.
Or let's just say, for instance, you don't. Hal is not following me, but I just don't like him. I gonna find him and I block him. I cannot do that. Now my personal page,
Oh, yeah.
I can
understand.
block you,
Block me, baby.
Cuss you and just whatever.
do
right?
whatever, So I mean, the stopping the comments. It's, right now, it's not against the law.
And you can hide the comments that are
And you can
derogatory or inflammatory.
definitely hide comments if somebody makes a really if you
Ignorant
if you
comment.
make a post on something and somebody calls you racist and it has nothing to do with
race.
no, I can say I made a post on my
Oh,
on my campaign page and I put no disrespect intent to anybody, but I made a post on just I like the KKK. It was okay. Let's just say that. Okay, and then somebody says, "Well, you're racist." Okay, there might be some truth to that.
You're racist.
Okay, but
against the
I
country.
make a post on my campaign page, and I support Title IX. Okay, and then somebody calls me racist. I am going to hide your comment
homophobe, right.
because it has nothing to do with what me supporting Title IX has to do anything with being racist. It's just not.
Right.
So, but I think it's just a matter of time before somebody challenges it. It takes it to the Supreme Court, and
It'll have to be open to everybody.
I think you're in solid ground. I think you are because they said at the rule already. You cannot block. I mean, you can an official page. You cannot block. You can hide a comment. Okay, but I don't think it was the turning off the comment section. I don't think it was addressed. But to me, using common sense, I think you can do that because here's a prime example.
All right, come on.
Yeah, hold on.
We got to roll.
Here's a prime example. Whole County School Facebook page will make a post, okay, on whether
Change of graduation.
yeah, and you have people that get upset over that. They can turn the comments off because that is nothing more than informational announcement. I really don't want your comment because the decision has already been made. It was made because we had no choice because of the weather condition. And this thing about this and this and that, how is this helping the situation? It's just not.
Right.
All right.
Anyway,
Alibad fires
Hey, I just
only.
wanted
What you got coming up?
Bring up real quick that I hate this. That there's actually a new seafood ramen restaurant coming to Hope County.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear about that? Seafood and ramen bar.
Yep.
can I guess where that's going to be
I
at?
guess I
Where,
can guess.
Flagstone.
Is that going to be near the Walmart area?
No, the
No,
Flagstone.
Flagstone.
Down there on 401.
Really?
Yeah, in the new buildings.
Okay.
They built
The news side.
when you're looking at from 401, the new side. But yeah, so the owners of the Mega Hibachi, which also is there in the main strip, they're going to open a new restaurant called Arona. It's going to be at 8598 Fayetteville Road later this month. The menu will include ramen, crab legs, lamb chops, wagyu steak, craft cocktails, and more. And for the public, they're taking applications right now on Indeed. Wages look to start at about $9 an hour, up to $15 an hour for various positions. And then just a public announcement as well for the people that are interested. I'll put it that way. The NCGOP convention starts this Thursday night
Oh boy.
with a convention kickoff. Saturday is the main business day where we elect the party officials. Sunday will be the conclusion of the convention with the state executive committee meeting. And then this is in the future, but the 4th of July, the Hope County Republican Party is hosting a cornhole tournament fundraiser out at PK's Grill from 6 until complete. And entry is $50 a team, and grand prize is $200. So come on down. It's single elimination, and there'll be more details to follow.
You hear that?
Hear that? See
You hear that
It's
sound?
going to be different from the last one?
Yeah, that one that lasted like 6 hours.
Oh, that was at a different
Oh,
location.
my God.
That was a long night.
Maybe y'all heard the helicopter fly over just a minute ago. Anything you got on Alibad fires coming up? The school board meeting change. They're going instead of Tuesday night the 10th. You're meeting the Monday at 4
It's going to
o'clock.
be Monday, the 9th of June.
I can see it now.
At 4 p.m.
Oh my God! Why you change the meeting while I'm at work?
This is the only thing I can say as an individual board member. Okay, sometimes things have to be done for
Accommodate
for reasons. Okay, what people don't understand
If you had
is
5 people going or
you
4
know,
people going to be out that
yeah,
Tuesday,
you got people. You see, you got two
You got
entities.
vacations going
You
on.
have, and then it's in the summer. The
No
school
schools
break.
yet.
You got the administration.
leave.
And then you got the school board members. And so we have to be able to find a happy medium to where everybody's there.
There you go.
I was just letting you know.
4 o'clock on the
You're
night.
going to hear it.
I mean, but
You know a little bit.
It's going to also be at the Digital Learning Center, not the library, not the Hoke High
So far.
Library, and that's probably
So
because
far.
of the road closures
yeah,
and stuff. And
yeah,
stuff,
we're
I
having
would
a lot of
imagine.
yeah.
It's by the way, Bethel Road and School Road
Yeah.
is down. It's over right
Well,
now.
if you don't know about it, you'll know about it.
You'll know when you get there.
when you try to get there.
try to
You
get
can't
down.
go in school in front of the high school anymore?
And Bethel,
Yeah.
the one down the backside between the buildings, you can't
between
go
the
there.
buildings.
Yep, it's over. It's done.
So how do you get to the school?
Through the you can go to the front lot, but you probably have to
Yeah,
turn around and
McDonald's
come
side,
back,
McDonald's side,
and you turn around and
yeah.
go back out.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, the Bethel, the one that's
The
on
backside.
so you're on Harris Avenue,
Mm-hmm.
and if you make a left on Bethel, that road is open.
Okay.
Okay, and then of course you got the road.
Oh, the backside of Bethel.
yeah.
is not open.
Then you got the road that's on the McDonald's side. I forget. I think that's School Road. I think.
That's
Yeah,
what I think. School
turn
leads
right.
out to
Yeah, to
401
McDonald's and 401,
or
yeah.
Harris, McDonald's.
That area. That's basically the area.
A loop.
And then of course you got the bus, but I don't ever count on that because that one's always closed
Slam
when I'm trying to
full,
get
yeah.
through. So I don't even go through that area. I just go through the other Bethel area. So
All right. I just mentioned Hope Fest going on through Sunday, each night this week till 10 or 11 sometimes, Friday and Saturday. And we've been having a good time so far, except for the couple times it's rained. And
We needed it though.
but we needed it. All right. So we
Ready
want
get
to thank
back to bonfires.
Yep, we want to thank our sponsors. Obviously, Rayford Guns. Check them out on Facebook, Rayford Guns and Rayford Guns 2. Also on X, Rayford Guns. They're inside the Shell station at Johnson Mill and Skull Road. Hoke County edition of the North State Journal, the only statewide newspaper in North Carolina. Check them out, hoke.northstatejournal.com. And please turn your dial to 105.7 FM WCLN or crank up your streaming app there, WCLN.com. And I'm got my pride hat, so I'm going to head out to the carnival and have a little fun. So for Hal Nunn,
Ruben Castellon
And Chris Holland.
we'll see you next time.